Denny Hamlin wins and two former champions are knocked out of the playoffs. Let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, Denny Hamlin gets the win, and then after the race does a little bit of trolling, fully embracing the villain role when he said, "I beat your favorite driver," of course referring to every other driver in the field and the boos that he was getting there. Now, people want personality. Denny Hamlin has personality. It is a debate that's waged, I guess, back and forth on social media. I personally don't care. I mean, it suits Denny Hamlin. If another driver got out and said it, it probably wouldn't fly as well, but it is what it is. It sort of suits Denny Hamlin and his MO. He won the race, of course, after Christopher Bell won the first two stages, so it was a strong night for Toyota. In fact, after Denny Hamlin got the lead, I didn't really see too many people that had anything for him. I only got to watch basically the replay of the race, so I didn't watch the full thing. I was at Orange County working the pits there, so didn't get to see the race as it was happening live. But it looked like once Denny Hamlin got the lead, nobody really had too much for him. And Christopher Bell before that, and Ty Gibbs actually led some of this race too. So it was a strong night for Toyota. Kyle Larson got up there a few times, but some problems on pit road for him. And then, of course, the initial starting position of last place, an issue for Kyle Larson. But it solidifies Denny Hamlin's place as one of the playoff favorites. He has to be one of the playoff favorites right now. He's getting hot at the right time. Kyle Larson, I think, is another one you would have to throw in there. And I think even Chris Buescher, whatever you want to call him, you have to put those three in there as they have been super consistent since the playoffs have started. So right now, those three guys sort of stick out to me as guys you got to sort of watch. Speaking of points, there was the big one at Bristol. Corey LaJoie going a little aggressive, getting a little kamikaze there. He takes out a good number of drivers, including Joey Logano. So Joey Logano, not a lot of people had him not making the next round, but Joey Logano becomes a former champion that doesn't make the next round. Speaking of which, let's just go through the drivers who got eliminated here. So I mentioned Joey Logano. He was in the Corey LaJoie wreck. He is the defending champion, so this is the first time, I think, that a defending champion is not going to be defending the title in the playoffs. Then you got Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick, that car was just off from the jump of the race. I never saw any speed from that car, and even Rodney Childers said after the race that this was not their best effort. He was disappointed in the effort as well. So Kevin Harvick, great season. Great career. Unfortunately, will not be advancing in the playoffs in his final season in NASCAR. Now, those are two negatives, kind of. But these two guys, even though they didn't make the next round of the playoffs, I think they still had a good season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even without the Daytona 500 win, would have been in the playoffs because he would have pointed his way in. So good building block for the JTG Doherty team there. I think they've got something to build upon there going forward. And I actually like the momentum. Even though they have to be disappointed they didn't make it to the next round, he still had an 11th or 10th place finish here in this race. So I think even though they're knocked out, it has to be a good run for them. Also a good run for Michael McDowell and the Front Row Motorsports Group. Good run for them because, once again, this is something they can build on going forward. This is 2 out of 3 years now that they've been into the playoffs, and so I think they can continue to build the momentum, the good momentum they got over there with Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland, who they have signed going forward. So those are the 4 out. So, of course, when 4 go out, that means the points reset. And with the reset, William Byron is back in the lead with 336 points. Martin Truex Jr., 336 points. Denny Hamlin with 332. Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick are your first 8. And currently now below the cut line, since we've got the reset, will be Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and Bubba Wallace. So even though those guys fought to make their way in, they are now back on the cut line. There is no break in the playoffs. You always just have to be on your game. So Bubba Wallace goes from celebrating to making it in to now being once again below the cut line. So that team, as well as Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, and Ross Chastain, have their work cut out for them. And of course, Tyler Reddick and all the rest of them, nobody can have a bad race going forward. All right, now back to good race, bad race. Your top 10 in this one, of course, going to be Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson. Good races for them. Like I said earlier, they solidify their playoff contender status. Christopher Bell, also have to throw him in the mix. Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, good run for Ty Gibbs. Led good portion of this race. Didn't work out for him in the end, but definitely a strong showing. Michael McDowell with the 6th place finish. Little too late for that team. Chase Elliott continues his strong run since the playoffs began. Brad Keselowski continues that RFK momentum along with Chris Buescher, another 2 top 10s for the RFK gang. William Byron, your points leader as it stands now with a top 10. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., like I said, good season for them. Unfortunately didn't make it. And then, of course, 11th place, Carson Hocevar. Have to talk about him. He had a great run in that 42 car. And I think for sure we're going to see him in the Cup Series next year. So it's going to be interesting to see if that comes out to be true. But great run for Carson Hocevar in that 42 and the Legacy Motor Club group finally getting their stuff together, unfortunately, at the end of the season. And as far as bad race goes, I think Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick pretty much cover it there. Bad runs for them, or got caught up in a wreck and didn't advance to the next round, 2 former champions. However, before this race started, some news broke talking about silly season and, Carson Hocevar, where he might go. Zane Smith signed a deal to race in the Cup Series, but it was not like anybody really had expected. He will be racing for Spire with a Trackhouse alliance from a charter that they bought from Live Fast. So first off, rest in peace, Live Fast. It was cool to have you in the sport. I'm glad those guys thought outside the box. BJ McLeod and all those guys involved with that thought outside the box. Matt Tifft, I think, thought outside the box and got into the sport. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. The speed was never there, but I'm glad that they tried. But going forward, that charter now belongs to Spire Motorsports, who has an alliance with Trackhouse. So that essentially gives that alliance 5 starting positions. Who will be in those starting positions? We know Zane Smith. A lot of people are assuming Corey LaJoie, but there is a question mark about that 77, and that's where a lot of people are speculating Carson Hocevar is going to go, and it is just speculation, but I think that is where he's going to go too. And then, of course, you get to keep Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain over there at Trackhouse. That is a huge alliance. That was huge news before the beginning of this race. So silly season, even though the playoffs have just started, silly season has gotten even bigger and more intense here recently. All right, I just wanted to give you guys this update. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hope your football team wins and all that good stuff. If this is your first time to the channel, I would love to have your subscription. If you're already subscribed, I appreciate you guys as well. If you got a question, comment, or anything about what we just talked about here, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. If you want to help out the channel by visiting the merch store, the link is down in the description. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace. Then kind of as I was editing this whole deal, more news came out that NASCAR is no longer going to be going to Road America at all. The Xfinity Series is not going there next season. So that came out. And then, of course, very, very serious news here. We lost Sherry Pollux. So rest in peace to her. Thoughts and prayers go out to her and her family. A big part of the NASCAR community, of course. She came up with the Catwalk for a Cure. So, yeah.